resources, but if the homeless don't have internet, how can they find out?
That's a good question. I would have anything. Volunteers, I guess, to try to reach out to the homeless people.
Detroit resident, how can you help out?
Volunteering was kind of on weekend. People work hard all the time.
All right.
So it's hard to get benefits.
How do you feel about accessibility to clinics for teens in the city of Detroit?
Obviously, as a resource, it's 25. I'm in line with the Health Affordability Act. I think that anyone under 25 should have access, no matter what their parental status is, no matter what their level of education is, no matter what their residential status is.
Detroit resident, how can you help out?
Whoa, that's a really hard question. This is a disconnect from reality, a disconnect from family, a disconnect from society. And I think that in order to stop homelessness, you got to get at the root of what causes someone to be homelessness. So homelessness, in my opinion, is the effect of something else that causes an effect. And that could be dysfunctional households, a lack of maturity on teenagers and trying to become grown before they are grown, lack of resources, and unfortunately probably the biggest problem is homes and
Does the government make homelessness as big of a deal as they do crime in the city of Detroit?
I wouldn't say making it as big a deal. They're all competing situations, unfortunately. They are intermingled. They cannot be totally separated, and we tend to look at them in isolation. So when you're talking about homelessness, a lot of people commit crimes because they simply do not have money. That's not what everyone does, but it is a stressor that causes people to commit crimes. If you're homeless, if you can't eat, if you can't take care of your basic needs, you are vulnerable and at risk to do those things. For the youth, it's worse. If you happen to be an LGBTQ kid, then it's so much worse. You may not have the support of your family, your school, you may be in hiding, you're at risk from predators, you're very isolated, very much at risk. I don't think that as a society that's high enough on our radar screen, but there are people out there working hard to make sure that it does become more visible so that people aren't just off to the side. I don't know if you remember the recent murder that we had here, where we had a transgender, I think probably young adult, that just identifying her was difficult. So fortunately, the Ruth Ellis Center is available. It does provide, resources for children to drop, or youth I should say, as a drop-in center, and some people that is their residence. Can be for you.
But if the homeless don't have internet, how can they find out?
It's just a greater tool. There are, information is out there, but making sure that it gets to everyone in need is always a challenge.
Okay.
So when you come to visit organizations, you get the word out. I do that a lot on my own. I do it here in my job. So that's the biggest challenge, is just keep people talking. With talk becomes awareness. You tell one person, they tell two people, and it spreads like that. So there's definitely a need to keep the conversation.
How can you, as a fellow Metro Detroiter, help bring awareness to the issue?
They're excited when they see youth taking on issues. So that in and of itself, we see ourselves a lot. We kind of close our ears to ourselves. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But when we see youth active and involved and knowledgeable and asking questions, it kind of pulls us up by our collars and tells us, hey, we need to be paying attention, because ultimately, until you all replace us, we make the decisions, we set the priorities, and so it's incumbent upon the youth to use their power to say, we're here, this is the world we're going to inherit, and what y'all doing? These are things that are important to us, so all kudos to you.